Hello. So I'm making this video. This is the second try. I messed up the first time. So these are brooches that I am making for a project for some people. And they asked me if I would do a tutorial so that they could work on it from a distance where they are. So this red stuff is fimo clay right here. Okay. I got 4 blanks plus a little bit made with this fimo, and I used this lid, this little supplement lid, as the round base, and then once I'd cut it out, I laid it over the top and rounded it. So this one's really thick, this one's not. This one's a little bit more rounded, and this one is got a cabachon, so it's a little bit more rounded. So there's a couple things you can do. One thing is I used this to emboss on the clay. I also used this to emboss on the clay. And then I used this tiny little thing to emboss around this edge just to create texture. Okay, now you can use, this is a tiger eye, this is a cut tiger eye. You could also use jade. This is a piece from an event. You could put that in there. You could use tiny little beads like that. I used this kind of bead for the center of this one. Okay, so you have several options for decorating. Now, the other thing I use is these plastic string of pearls. They're really nice, they're cheap, they're inexpensive. You can also use trim. This is just excess trim that I found, that I edged this one in. Okay, it just gives texture in addition. The other thing you need is a template. So this template is a 3 1/4 and 2 1/4 inch circles. The bigger one is your ground that you bead on. Your smaller one is your background. So if you watched any of my first video that was live streamed, disregard it, throw it away. Don't do that. I did it backwards. So what you do for your backing is you cut a hole in your felt and you stick your pen through it, and then you glue your felt to your cardboard. Okay. Now, these squares, if you get fat quarters from the store, like at Walmart, these squares come in those fat quarter pieces. Save these. These make wonderful art things. I use them for everything from glue spreaders to patterns to lots of things, okay? So don't throw those away. And I will load that pattern into my documents on my Facebook page for you. Okay. So what you do is you attach your fimo clay base to your circle. Now, I use Gutermann 100% cotton thread. Now you can wax it or not wax it. I'm not going to wax this one because I just want to show you. Now when I make my fimo clay bases, if you see there's little circles, little things, I make those with a darning needle. The end of the darning needle, it slides right in there, makes a nice little hole. And that is what I use to anchor my fimo clay to my felt. Okay, and I go all the way around. Now you can do single thread, double thread. I'm just doing this really quick to show you. And I caught my beads because I'm not paying attention. Okay. If if I weren't demonstrating this, I probably would go in and out 3 times. I'm in a hurry and I'm not. Okay, here we go, back to the camera. So if you anchor it securely, it won't fall apart. I'm not gluing it. I found that trying to glue fimo to felt and then have it hold up long term, it doesn't work. I tried it a couple years ago. I made one of these for Rothgar, and I made a couple in the attempt to get started, and I've tried a couple different things. Do not just glue the fimo to the felt. Don't just glue your beads. You need to sew them on. It doesn't hold up. The costume jewelry, though this is, does not hold up over time if you don't sew them down. Okay. So there's your fimo center. Let me find the end of my, now if you clip this thread at the end of your pearl, it helps it a little bit. Find the end of your thread where it is. I usually go in a couple beads to sew it down, because then it gives me one to hold on to. Now, I do not cut my beads ahead of time. It is sometimes a little tricky to gauge how much you're going to use going around an object, and I don't want to waste any of my supplies. I want to be careful that I utilize my supplies wisely. Somebody gifted me these a couple years ago, but that doesn't mean that they were free for that person either. And yes, they're cheap plastic, but plastic doesn't go away for thousands, millions of years, so let's use what we have and reuse what we have wisely. So you go in and out of each and every one of these. Don't skip any. If you skip them, it will not lay right, nor will it hold up. And you don't know who this is going to go to. It could go to a guy, it could go to a kid. It just could go to somebody who handles things really rough, and you want it to hold up as much as possible over time. Now, you could, if you wanted to, make these with real fancy items. The one I made for Rothgar a couple years ago has a brass or copper center that's engraved metal. And then I put real freshwater pearls, and I used real carnelian stones around the edge, you know, circling it. Really pretty piece. But I used real stuff because that's what I had, and it was a gift for Rothgar. Everybody loves Rothgar. Well, maybe not everybody, but I like Rothgar. So you can preload your needles in advance. Usually takes 3-4 good needles to go all the way around it twice with pearls. You could use fabric trim like I did that other one. I like texture in my pieces. I don't do any one thing more than once. Everything is a unique piece of art. That's how I work. So there are no two pieces of anything I've ever made that are the same. I've tried, and it never works out. If you can see, The piece that these are modeled after, the Byzantine or Roman, Justinian, whatever his name was, there's a mosaic that the inspiration for these came from. And then I looked at, let me tell you, I looked at a lot of brooch styles, and there's quite a few that if you used like a brown fimo and then used acrylic gold paint, you could filigree highlight the embossing and kind of create more of a metal base, and then you could, there's a lot of things you could do. You could sew in or place in the stones, glue them in. I think fimo is a really good alternative if you don't have the means or the time or the money to do the metal particulars. I think it's a wonderful cheat when you're trying to make a lot of something inexpensively. I've done quite a few projects with fimo over the years that have been really nice. It also depends on how much time you take on something. You can see there's a little bit of a gap there, but not much. Once you lay it flat, it won't be too bad. But I'm going to put another layer of pearls here, so we'll just off center that. Now on this one, there's a little bit of a gap there, but I'm going to do another round. It won't be that visible. This one would have been really bad, so I used an actual brass ball there, same as I'd used on the dangly bits. And that really, I think, saved the layout. So we'll just keep running around the edge here. Now the needle I'm using is a quilting needle. It's really long and thin and very, very sharp. As you can see, I have fairly long nails, so really tiny needles, and I can use them, I just don't like them. I prefer to have something that I can grab hold of really easily. Just means your eye is going to be a little smaller. Okay, on the back side, I'm not worried about knots because I'm going to glue the backing, so ultimately I really don't have to worry about my knots. Remember, don't use more thread than your arm's length. You don't want it too long because it will tangle and make a mess. You want to be able to control it. So basically, once it's folded in half and with a knot at the end, it's about as long as your hand to your elbow. It's really as long as you need it. You don't need it any longer. A lot of people want to use a really long length of thread because they don't want to thread their needle very often. If that is your problem, pre-thread 5 or 6 needles so that you don't have to stop and be impatient with yourself. But don't make your thread any longer. It just creates more problems, wastes more of your materials. when I did my first video before I messed up, I had 3 or 4 loaded and I just didn't load them for the second video. So if you see that this edge, I've got about 1/4 inch of felt on the edge, you want that edging. That is going to fold over your backing so that your edging doesn't show, and it creates a really good foundation for your pen, the backing pin that you've already put together. It also creates an extra sturdiness around the edge of your brooch. Now the other kind of pin that you can put on your backing, I have one here, it's a brass pin. I have used a couple of those before. I've just found that they make a really big hole in the fabric, and not everybody wants to do that to their fabric. So for something that's going to be used in mass at a larger event, I'm just going to use the cheaper fine tip backs. But that backing there, I have a whole bunch of them that I got for another project. You notice I'm going over each one of these twice. The first one just kind of puts it where I want it to be. The second one tightens it down. I don't know if you can tell that from the video. I'm trying not to take forever to do this. This is where I wish I had a magic speed up button. But you'll have that on your video ability, so you can just speed it up. So we have our center, we have our back, and I'm going to put that one here. I kind of want to figure out what my lineup is. I know where I am. So I go to the edge, my felt, and I go in. And you're going to end up going around your edge twice, because you grab the felt, you pull it down, you run it over just a little smidge, and then you pull it down. Now I don't have a lot of thread, so I'm going to kind of tack this so I don't have to fight it later. and then I'm going to cut because I'm going to get a longer piece of thread here. Now, this actually works out really well thread-wise because I have it started on that one side. I'm actually going to pick up at the opposite side to make sure I have it tacked down. I haven't always had that opportunity where I've run out of thread just right. So you just got to hold it and work around. But this works really well where I can show you. So I just make sure it's lined up really good there. And I come over to the opposite side, and you do have to kind of fiddle with the pin portion. So I come in, I pull it down, go in again. See, I'm not going very far. Okay, and grab another piece of felt. Pull it in, grab a little bit of felt, pull it in, grab a little bit more felt. See how that folds over nicely? You got to be careful not to grab any felt than what you mean to grab. Turn it a little bit. Grab a little bit more felt. Grab here. Hopefully that shows really well. I can see it in the light of the window here. See how I grab that? So I grab a little bit here. Pull it down, right? See how that pulls down? And then I grab a little bit more felt here at the base. And it tugs down. If there's a name to this stitch, let me know. I have no idea what this stitch is called, but it works wonders, and I've used it for all the brooches. I make my way back to the other portion here that I've already started. Now I have fairly long nails, so see this part here that I've already done? See that? I'm going to grab that puckered part that has been created, and I pull that down, and I go over here to the part that I created before, that little puckered part. And I grab it, and I pull it down, because that's basically what you do when you go back through the second time, is you catch all those ones that have been pulled, that are up, those puckers that you created. You go back and you catch them, and you flatten them down. So you go around your pin on the back twice, and that's why your backing is smaller in circumference than your front decorative piece. You kind of want that. It creates a really nice stable pin. I mean, these things are pretty darn hardy. And they may be made out of less expensive recycled material, but that doesn't mean that the quality of the material and how it's put together needs to be sacrificed. The assembly quality, that's the word I'm looking for. Like, you should still be able to take pride in creating something that is mimicking a historical thing, item, decoration, whatever. And so I'm going to go back through now on all these little puckers, and if you did it right the first time, it kind of works out where those puckers line up about the right needle length between stitches to the next pucker. I wish there's a better way for me to say that, but they are puckers. They're like little puckers you've created. And they work out about right. Now I use my nails to kind of guide the needle a little bit here so that I don't catch more felt than I mean to. Black is hard to film. Maybe I should have done this with purple or green or something with contrasting colors. I didn't think about that till just now. Till I'm realizing that this is not really very clear. I'm trying, guys, I really am. So I got those bottom pieces already. I don't need to do those again, but I do need to catch these ones. These bigger puckers here. If you do it right, it kind of works into a really nice smooth back. I'm running out of thread, so I'm gonna so you can see why it's not really necessary to worry about knotting all of your threads. The other thing you can do, which I didn't do on this one, which I should have because I'm supposed to be showing you how to do it, but the back of the decoration here, I usually smear on some glue on the back of that and let that dry before I sew the backing on. I don't know why I didn't do that. I think it's because I was in a hurry and I've already made this video once and messed it up, so my bad. Here's my, got that like there. And just make sure you catch every single one of those little loopy things, puckers that are on your back of your, and you do have to go around twice. It just, I've tried cheating and not doing that, and it just doesn't work. You do have to go through twice. Just don't get impatient, don't get in a hurry, and just know that that's the way it works, and you'll be fine. There we go. Okay. So I've gone all the way around twice. I'm going to run my thread just along here because I want to get to the bottom. Now this is the dangly bits. This is what's next. So you just kind of figure out where your pin is on the back and you eyeball it. Okay. And I think we'll use silver this time. So I use 3 silver metal balls, and then I use 1 pearl. Now in the image it's a teardrop shaped pearl that's on the dangly bits. I didn't have any. So again, you make do with kind of what you have and make it work. So I have my thread. I just kept using the same sewing thread, so it's not like I'm using anything fancy. I strung all my beads and I go back up through the second bead. And you do kind of have to make sure you don't end up with a knot. So Okay. Then I anchor that to my, okay. See how the anchored? And I go a few over, that's probably too far. Okay. A little bit further over. And then I do 1, 2, and 3. 1 big bead. And don't lose them and throw them on the floor. And 1 little one. Again, these are just inexpensive, what I had leftovers. If you even look close, they're 2 different colors of pearl. I'm going to run it back up. Now if you hold on to this string, it'll keep it from knotting on you a little bit. Run it back through the middle. Now I'm running through all that cardboard and glue and everything. Okay, guys? Because I really want it to anchor really good. I don't want it to come out. Come back over here and go over a little bit. And I think I have enough for just, no, I don't have enough thread for 1 more, so I'm going to run it back and forth a couple times because those dangly bits are hanging on the end of that, and I really don't want to lose that. And then I'll get a little bit more thread. I don't need a lot for this because it's 1 more bit. Run my knot through my little pucker there. And then 1, 2, 3, and a big pearl. And small pearl. And then go back up through the middle here. That one just really doesn't want to line up, does it? It's always the last one, right? Line up, come on. Come on, guys. And then I go back in through all that cardboard and felt and fabric, anchor it down really good. And just like I did with the tail end of the other one, I go back and forth through it a couple of times. Oops. And preferably not tear up the work I've already done. Really? How'd I do that? Couldn't have done that if I'd tried. Well, preferably not creating a bigger problem like I just did. This is why you should wax your thread. Don't do what I did. Make sure you wax your thread. It doesn't do this if you wax it. Okay. Okay, there we go. One more done. So in one block of fimo clay, I've made 4 of these brooches, and one that doesn't. And this one was one of those where it was just a mother of pearl, fake mother of pearl. Just tried something new. So there's a lot of opportunity for creativity in these, where they can all be just slightly different. So I encourage you to have fun and enjoy making brooches. And the pins work really nicely on the back. If you look at it, it comes apart really. There you go. And you can pin it to anything you like. So have a beautiful day creating, and hopefully this helps somebody and inspires somebody to make more brooches. Have fun.